Oh, this is so great. So they've brought forward some cans, adding to our bounty, and they're about to hold up the important message that they're going to share with us. It's okay if you're holding two. And if there's anybody else who wasn't here last week, that's okay. We have extra letters. Come on forward and help out. And if you're a parent who's holding a little one, just come on up too. That's great. We're glad you guys are both here. Harper, welcome. All right. So, Cecilia, you start.
T is for turkey and tofu and toast, and for the word table, which we love to host.
H is for Harper, who drew the word home, and horses and happiness, that's all her zone.
A is for Adeline and the word apple. The pie we all love, let us quick taste a sample.
N is for Nana and napkins and noodles. We wait all year long for the first bite of strudel.
K is for kindness and kinship and king. When we all get together, love rules everything.
S is for stuffing and cranberry sauce. Also for soup and for salad that's tossed.
G is for gobble and Gabby, my sister. If you say that all fast, it's quite a tongue twister.
I is for ice cream, which goes on the pie. We eat dessert last, but don't ask me why.
V is for Vinny, who is very fun, and when the day's over, he hugs everyone.
I is for Izzy and for iguana. If that's at Thanksgiving, I really don't wanna.
N is for nose and nice number 9. Our friends and our family make us feel so fine.
Because of God's blessing, our love fills this place. So G is for God and goodness and grace.
Okay, keep holding. All right, so we're going to do it in one church responsive reading aspect. Can you hold another G? All right, Mark and I are getting ready. We will hold up a sign. We hope you repeat after us. Are you ready? I only have one. Happy.
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 Everybody hold yours up. 1, 2, 3.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you, everybody.
So, this week we're talking about a twist on gratitude, and so a lot of you know my mother. She works at the senior center, and a couple years back, the senior center was moved to a new building, and around the same time, the old director was fired, and my mother took her place as kind of working as the director, and kind of supporting this move. And she worked very hard until the day that they hired a new director, in which my mother, she applied, but she did not get it, and she went back to being the outreach. And at first I thought, like, what's up with that? Because my mother worked very hard, but what I'm really grateful for is how much I get to see her, because this director can work up to 70 hours a week, and if my mother was the director, I wouldn't get to see her nearly as much. And love you, Mom, and that's why I'm grateful.
Good morning. About a year ago, my family suffered a horrible loss when my grandfather lost a short battle to cancer. It was very hard on my family because he was very dear to all of us. He was an amazing man. And as the weeks went on, we went through the various funeral traditions, and as we were all in that room and people were coming in, I noticed people who I hadn't seen in years were coming in, and there was so much love in that room, and we had all come together because this horrible thing had happened. But through all the grief, there was so much love, and I looked around and I thought, would all of this have happened if this horrible thing hadn't happened? One thing to know about my grandfather is that family meant more than anything in the world to him, and to know, if he had known that all of those people had come together because of him, he would have been so incredibly happy. So I'm so incredibly grateful that all of those people were able to come together, and I saw so many people who I don't know if I would have seen otherwise, and I'm so incredibly grateful for all of those people that I saw and all of those people who had come together to celebrate my grandfather's life.
All right. You might have noticed a paper mitten inside your order of worship this morning. This is so that you can participate in spreading love this holiday season. Our confirmation class is in charge of the wish tree this year. We'll be putting up a Christmas tree in the vestibule on Wednesday, so that it will be ready for Advent, which starts next Sunday.
The wish tree is a way for our whole congregation to give presents to local children who are in foster care. The paper mittens will be hanging on the tree with the name and age of the kid written on the inside, so we will know who we are giving a present to. Later, each child will get a present, and the label on it will be one of our mittens.
So today, we would like you to decorate the mittens with artwork, prayers, good wishes, and hopeful messages. There are markers in the pews, and so if you're a kid who likes to draw during the service, this is a special job for you. Help us send lots of love to these kids in foster care.
The mittens can go in the offering basket later on in the service. Thank you for helping spread First Church love to everyone this season.
Okay. Quick show of hands. Who's ever had to repeatedly interact with someone that was a real jerk? Wow, okay. Wait, now, raise your hand again if you ever wished you could teach that jerk a lesson. Okay, I know how you feel. And I'm gonna tell you a story now about my relationship with a guy named Joe and a really big lesson that got learned. Joe was my company's director of quality, who I met when he trained us on the new quality management system that he had written. I was new to the company and I wanted to make a good impression. So I read everything ahead of time. I prepared a lot of notes and a lot of questions. And during the training, unfortunately, when I asked my questions, instead of clarifying things, Joe responded with questions that seemed designed to make me look foolish in front of my colleagues. After the training, a colleague told me that Joe had a mean streak and a tendency to dress people down in public. They suggested I avoid him. I knew one thing was clear. This Joe was a jerk. Avoiding Joe wasn't an option because I was overseeing the development of a medical device that needed to comply with the quality management system. And to be honest, slinking away from jerky behavior was never really my style anyways. So instead, I prepared well. I researched my positions in advance, and I prepared defenses for Joe's attacks. And I persevered through a lot of difficult conversations to keep my project on track. It seemed like a lot of wasted energy, but on the upside, I learned so much about design controls that I didn't really have to interact with Joe much anymore. That is, until I got promoted and I was asked to write a program management manual that was going to integrate with Joe's quality management system. This was going to be a challenge. I knew that Joe had a background in philosophy, so I decided to start my manual by drafting a philosophy of program management for our company and sharing it with Joe to try to entice him in. It sort of worked, and while we still argued a lot, our debates got more constructive, and I was able to release a pretty good program management manual. That next spring, Joe and I both traveled to Hong Kong to train our China teams on his quality management system and on my program management manual. And between our training sessions and Joe showing me around the city, I learned a lot more about him as a person. I learned that he suffered from Lyme disease that left him with nerve damage and chronic pain that made it really hard for him sometimes to understand others' intent because he was blinded by the pain that was going on. And I learned that he'd been working very hard to improve our company's quality processes because there'd been an important lapse in the past. I also learned that Joe's philosophy background was the reason that he used this Socratic questioning process that drove me nuts. And that he believed emotions are much less important than the rigorous testing of ideas through logic. On the Hong Kong subway early one morning, both still kind of out of whack with jet lag, Joe and I discovered to our mutual surprise that we were both big fans of Byron Katie. And Joe told me that the deepest thing he learned from her was that there can be no war if we all refuse to defend ourselves. That hit me pretty hard. And honestly, I sort of realized that all the defending of myself I had been doing was a big part of the reason Joe and I had been fighting these wars for the last couple of years. See, Joe never meant to attack or hurt me. He was trying to attack ideas as a way to make them better. By the end of this trip, I was seeing Joe as a friend. But then unfortunately, an offhanded comment I made to another colleague in the hallway got taken way out of context. And Joe thought I had personally attacked him behind his back. Joe was really hurt by someone he thought he could trust and open up to. And our relationship got really sour even after I apologized profusely. It took years, but grace allowed Joe to eventually forgive me, and we regained our friendship. It was incredibly trying to get where we are, but I'm incredibly grateful for the lessons that I learned as a result. That all people, even the jerks, are made in God's image, and that they're probably doing the best they can. That I don't ever have to defend myself if I don't want to. And that in a good argument, you never lose, because you either win or you learn. Like I said, I'm really grateful to Joe, and you all should be grateful to Joe too, because he helped make me the better person and the better friend that I am today. This is my Thanksgiving story of unexpected gratitude. Thank you, Joe.
When I was first asked to do this, I thought it would be easy for me. I'm not up in front of people very often, and I haven't actually had to write anything in a really long time. 5 years ago, it would have been nothing to me, and 2 years ago, I would have been absolutely incapable of even standing here for this length of time. I'm hoping today I'll surprise myself. And while I'd love to jump straight past what the difficulties have been and right to the blessings, I think we need to understand a little more first. In August of 2015, I sent my husband a message telling him I wasn't feeling well, and I went to bed. I didn't get back out of bed for 6 to 12 months, not for more than a few minutes assisted. The following years, I've spent fighting my way back from pain that I never imagined possible, memory loss, and mood swings so extreme that I was sometimes unrecognizable to my loved ones. Lyme disease causes paranoia too. I lost myself. So how can blessings come from a condition like this? It's actually really hard to imagine that you could see anything positive. I'm never going to be well again, not completely, and it's taken a really long time to accept that fact. But I found that when I sat down to write this, there have been so many blessings in my life that it was really hard to decide what to talk about. Do I tell you how surprised I was when I was able to accumulate medical and nutritional knowledge to help myself? Do I tell you how this has really deepened my relationship with my husband and my parents? Do I tell you how Toli and I are now completely present when we're out having fun, because we know exactly how precious those moments are and exactly how quickly they can disappear? Do I tell you how I've been surprised at the places friendship and support can come from? I think the first thing I should tell you is how toxic friends will disappear the moment you're no longer fun to be around. Those friends had created so much stress in my life since high school, and I found, and I was surprised to find, that it was such a relief to have them gone. I was also surprised to find how much comfort can be found in healthy relationships, especially those that have been forged either because of or despite illness. Every time I've lost faith in people in the last few years, someone has come forward to bring that back. I used to hold a lot of grudges and be a fairly angry person, and I'm not going to say that that was without reason, but it was painful for me and my relationships were suffering. My only memory from that first year is standing outside yelling at my doctor to help me. And again, I had good reason. I hung up, though, and I had the clearest epiphany I've had in my life. You can't heal when you're so angry. So at a time when friends were abandoning me, doctors were refusing to help me, and I was really struggling with my family because of their lack of understanding, I began to let go of it all. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And can I claim I'm never angry now? I mean, no. Everybody is, and rage is a symptom of my condition. But I'm aware of it now, and I work really hard to recognize it and let it go. And by the way, if I haven't mentioned my husband here, know that I tell him every day how truly blessed I am to have such an empathetic and supportive spouse. Very few could do what he has, and so few would have stayed to do it. But this illness brought us to God, who led us to this church just a few months before my body gave out. And I should mention that before this, we weren't in favor of church. Tolly actually looked Robin right in the eye and said, "I'm an atheist and you're not going to change my mind." You guys saved us both. You've given me unflagging support for years, letting me know that I'm not alone and I'm not forgotten. And you showed up for Tolly, who was learning how to cook, clean the house, take care of animals I'd promised it would never be his responsibility, and take care of me, all while working full-time. You kept us afloat with meals, with visits, and once you even helped me pay my medical bills. And one year, you found out that I was really depressed over Christmas, and you brought me a Christmas tree. Well, you brought us both a Christmas tree. You also brought us ornaments. I called it the love tree that year. And every time I looked at it, I smiled at a time when I really wasn't smiling very often. And I think one of the most surprising things that's happened is as I've healed, I've become an artist. And if you told me this was going to happen years ago, I would have laughed. But this last year, I've experienced inspiration, and it's a really amazing feeling. My brain just opened up. Now I spend several nights a week creating, and I'm so proud of what my hands have done. There's so much that I want to learn, and so much that I want to make. For the first time in my life, I figured out what I really want to do, and I feel driven for the first time in years. So while I won't claim I'm always this positive about things, I mean, in fact, this past week I've been pretty sick, and I've been really frustrated and pushing against the bounds of my limitations. On hard days, I'm reminding myself of all of these beautiful pieces of my life. My illness changed me. I'm a different person because of it. And while I miss some of the things about the girl that I used to be, I really prefer the woman that I am now. So I want to end by saying thank you. Thank you for the help over the years, the cards that you've sent, the flowers, the visits. Thank you for being our friends. And thank you for being in our lives.
Good morning. So my story is about my granddaughter, Annie. Annie is a beautiful, healthy, tall 18-year-old. I've been spending Wednesdays or Wednesday afternoons with her every week since she was 2 or 3 years old. We shoot baskets, we take walks, we make puzzles. But today, the important part of the story here is that Annie is severely autistic. She has a very difficult time communicating. She has just a few words in her expressive vocabulary. She understands more than that, certainly. She functions about like a 3 or 4-year-old. And importantly, she has no good way to express pain or displeasure other than getting angry or being a bit aggressive. So, in all honesty, as I head over to be with her, I'm happy to do that. I want to do that, and I certainly want to give my daughter a few hours of a break. But I am a bit apprehensive. Will Annie be at ease, or will she be agitated? Will I be able to figure out what she wants? How will I manage if she gets angry? What if she starts to kind of move into me or scares me? And maybe more importantly, how will I best be able to let her know that I love her? I'm sure underneath all these years, the best would have been to have a mutual relationship with her. But that's not how she is, and she doesn't relate like a typical child would. Sure, I'd have liked hugs and talks and finding out how her day was, but these things just aren't going to happen. Last week when I was over there, after her typical, she gets a snack and then she watches YouTube and Sesame Street and a few other shows that you'll recognize from your young kids. We headed to the playroom where Annie has a series of 3-year-old activities that she can do. Now, I never am sure what it is that she's going to be willing to do, or kind of how it will go. So that day, as usual, I suggested a few things that I think she likes to do, and it didn't fly. And she's very good with one word, no. But she eventually flopped down in her beanbag chair that always sits in the corner of the room, and she was really content. And she soon began to kind of gesture with her hands, and she was saying something that I didn't understand, but finally I got it. She wanted me to sit down with her. So I asked her, "Do you want me to sit down?" And she can say yes, and she did. So I flopped down next to her. So if you can picture 2 people my size sitting in one of these beanbag chairs. So I started rubbing her leg because I know she likes that. We kind of intertwined fingers. She'd raise her hand up in the air and I'd put my hand up and we'd kind of play around with each other's hands. And then all of a sudden she reached out with her arm and put it across my back and for a few moments pulled me close to her. That was an amazing moment. I don't know what she was thinking, but I know that I was filled with joy. And then the moment was over. Annie jumped up, shut the lights out, said, "All done," and headed upstairs. I am so grateful for that unexpected moment when love clearly flowed back and forth between us. Thinking about it later, I realized that Annie was reminding me of things that I know but probably don't always do. Live in the moment. Be present. Get beyond myself. And be open so that love can reveal itself. My moment with Annie opened me to noticing how God or love works. The merging of what's sacred in her and what's sacred in me to this wonderful connection, to a oneness. And that for me is heaven on earth. So I thank Annie for that moment.